What is the best and quickest way to learn English? Stick around and you'll find out. This is Celta English with me, Frank. When I was doing research for this video, I wanted to find the best tips to learn a language quickly. And as I read through many articles, there were some great tips, some not so great, some... And I also use my own experience in learning a language. See, I can speak fluent Spanish, which is handy. Sí, señor. But when I looked through the tips, I took the best ones, and I'm going to show you these on this video. Let's review some of the tips from various web pages. From a website, Fluent in 3 Months, it gives these tips here. It says, speak from day one. Of course, you'll have to learn a few words before you do that. Create a home immersion situation. I mean, it says change the language on your phone. There's an interesting idea there that we'll come to in a bit. You'll find that really helpful to learn vocabulary. But let's see what else they say here. Use good language apps. Yeah. I mean, that's okay. It's kind of obvious. Try the science of flashcards. Well, you know, flashcards are flashcards, aren't they? Pictures, words. Use context to learn words the natural way. Yeah, it talks about neuroscience and research and things like that. Yeah, it might be a bit complex, in my opinion. Read a lot. Now we're talking. Read a lot. We'll get into what else we can do to fill our minds with the language as well. Take a new approach to grammar. Grammar. Interesting idea though. Let's say don't really study grammar, just try and pick it up as you go along. Yeah, you can do a bit of both. A bit of both is good. Keep up the motivation. See, that is important, because if you just carry on for a bit and then give up, you won't learn anything, will you? Apart from, in Spanish, hola, dos cervezas por favor. You know, you want to know more than just asking for a couple of beers. So that's Fluent in 3 Months. A few ideas, not bad. Let's go on to another website. FutureLearn.com has an article as well about how to learn a language quickly. Now, of course, we're applying this to English, but you can apply it to any language, really. The first thing it suggests doing is setting language goals. What do you want to be doing in, say, 6 months? And the steps of how you're going to get there. So have big goals, but break them down into smaller goals. That makes sense. Good one. Learn common vocabulary is number 2 in Future Learn's suggestions. Thousands and thousands of words in a language, but it suggests learning 800 to 1,000 words, and with that you'll have a pretty good understanding and be able to speak and communicate with people. Another good tip, learn the basics. Again, good, obvious, but that's okay. Let's carry on with number 3 here. Find a style that works for you. Yeah, I mean, you can't just go through all the different styles until you find one that fits, can you?
Maybe.
If you're determined and have a lot of money. The next tip it gives is practice speaking, and now that's something that is important to do. Use what you learn. Future Learn, good tip. It also suggests here connecting with a native speaker, I imagine. Yeah, that's good, because then you'll get the natural language, won't you? Good way, not bad. Yeah, it can be easier said than done. Now it talks about consuming media. So we said before about reading, but you can also listen. There's podcasts and radio programs on the internet. There's videos in the native language, in English, British English, if you're going to do English. And that's a brilliant way to fill your head with the language. Even though it may not all make sense at the beginning, you'll start to get a feel for how things are. Another tip is engage with the culture. So I guess the food? The trouble is with some languages there's a whole variety of cultures. If you're going to learn English, of course you want to learn British English, so you've got the British culture, but then you've got the American, you've got the Australian, you've got a whole bunch of other countries that speak English, and so which culture do you want to get involved in? And even in the British culture there's a whole bunch of cultures. I would suggest though, if you want to speak good English, British English, you need to have a cup of tea every day, a piece of toast for breakfast, and a sandwich for lunch. They're, kind of essential things for British people. The last tip it gives is make travel plans. Again, easier said than done. If you're learning English, coming to England could be a goal. Start saving, but then then it's more than just a flight. It's the hotel, the food, the travel expenses within the country. But it's a nice idea if you can do it. Come to Britain and practice en vivo, as they say in Spanish, practice live. So a few interesting tips from Future Learn. Nice one. I guess the third article about how to learn a language quickly, especially British English, you'd find on the BBC. Let's see what they have to say here. Top tips from experts to learn a language quickly. Take risks and speak the language whenever you can. Take risks. Read children's books and comics in the target language, in English. Consume foreign language material or media. Again, that's something similar to the previous two sites, so that's obviously something important to do. Immerse yourself in the local culture. Again, it's one of those ones, isn't it, that if you have the money to go abroad and to travel, you can do that. If not, then watching programs about the country, about the language, could be a good way to immerse yourself in the culture. Make use of free language podcasts and applications that are available. Another tip from the Beeb, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Not bad, yeah. We've mentioned that already though, so it's not original. Another tip they give here, don't practice in isolation. Don't practice on your own. Get feedback from native speakers. Again, we want to speak to those who are fluent in the language, especially if they're from the country, like me, from Britain. That's always good to do. Then they can give you feedback, they can correct you, they can teach you new words or phrases or ways of saying what you want to say. Now this is a good tip here. Don't worry about making mistakes, and that can be one of the biggest obstacles when you learn a language, making mistakes. See, that was something that I struggled with when I learned Spanish. I didn't want to say something if it was going to be wrong, but then you can't worry about that, otherwise you'll never say a word. So just jump in the deep end and practice. Practice, practice, practice. So of all these ideas, which ones are any good? What does CELTA English, what do I tell you to do? What are the best tips in learning a language quickly, in learning British English quickly? Well, let's go into that right now. These are CELTA English's 5 best tips for learning a language quickly, for learning British English quickly. Okay, you ready? Number 1, set goals. If you set goals, you have something to aim for. It's when you're just learning casually that you won't get anywhere. Set goals. One of those goals can be point 2. Study every day. Don't just study for a couple of hours once a week. Try to study 15 or 20 minutes every day. And that will keep it fresh in your mind. You'll learn new words every day. You can practice these every day. A little and often is better than a lot, not very often. Number 3, CELTA English's best tips. Have a native language tutor. For example, if you want to learn English, have a British English native speaker, like me, I'm pretty good at English and not a bad teacher. So have a native speaking teacher, because it's not just the words, it's the way they sound. If the person who you learn from has a non-native accent, you'll learn the words, you'll learn how to put them into the right order, but the sound won't be right. You want a native speaking tutor. Yeah? And with that, you want to make sure you have regular lessons. Now this could be once a week. It could be twice a week. You don't have to do it every day, unless you're really keen. You have a lesson or 2 each week. You do your homework and you practice every day. Remember I said 15, 20 minutes, half an hour? If you want to learn quickly, you have to practice. You have to work at it. You have to work hard. So that's an excellent tip. Next tip, number 4. Some of these articles have said fill your mind or consume media in the target language, I say the same. Read English articles. Now you could read the news, but they tend to use a lot of complicated expressions, words that you wouldn't really use in conversation. Not normal conversation. Read things that are made for young people. Simple articles. If you want to read something slightly more complex, make a note of the words that you don't understand. Research. Check them out on an online dictionary and practice saying it out loud. Usually they have the phonetic phoneme, the sounds, how it should sound, and often they have a play button so you can listen to the word, repeat the word, and use it in a sentence. So fill your mind. Reading, listening, videos, music. If you fill your mind with English, you're going to start using what you're hearing, what you're reading. And something else related to this is not just input but output. Not just speech. Practice writing in English. When I learned Spanish, I wrote down verb tables, vocabulary. Put the name of things on, for example, door. Put a sticker that says door. Fridge, cupboard, table, bunny. Do that, and don't just walk through the door and look at the sticker. Just say door, or this is a door. That's a pen. Practice all the time. Practice, practice, practice. And the last one, probably the most important thing you can do to learn English quickly, is to jump in. Jump in the deep end. You won't learn to swim unless you get wet. Any opportunity you get to speak, speak. Practice. Find someone who speaks English. Say something to them. Anything nice. If you can travel to the country where they speak the language, British English, Britain, then take every opportunity to practice what you're learning. Don't just use the international language of pointing. Really try to use language that you've learned. And so those are the 5 tips. Should we just repeat them one more time? Set goals, study a bit every day, fill your mind with the language, practice with a native speaker, try to get a native tutor, and jump in. Don't worry about making mistakes, just go for it. These are the 5 tips that will help you learn English quickly. And just to add, these tips apply to any language. Talking of which, Celta English is now offering language courses from beginners to experts. Go to our Instagram and let us know if you want to have one-on-one class or you want to have a group lesson. There we can give you the details and we can help you learn English quickly. All these 5 tips that we've talked about will apply in our lessons. If you want to know more about the sounds of English, click this video here. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. This is Celta English with me, Frank. Bye.